and I've been doing the same job for 20 years. Maybe I want to shift. Maybe I want to do something else. So I think it's for every human being, whether they are starting the journey now, 20 years, 30 years. And to be honest, nobody is indisposable. If I don't change, if I don't adapt, if I don't look what's tomorrow, I might not be relevant in tomorrow's world.
Layoffs are not personal. You need to remember that it's a business decision and it's based on the structure of the business, economic factors, maybe something around cost. You can't obviously stop a layoff, but you can anticipate if you're seeing maybe internally that roles aren't being replaced when people are moving out.
The world is changing, and I think each one of us should be prepared what tomorrow is for us, and thinking about more than what you're doing right now. Think about not your current role, but what else can you do? You can increase your visibility in the organization. Try to be more visible in terms of different type of work, not extra work, but different work that you can showcase your adaptability, your flexibility, make your network, do networking, go out, meet people, and see what else is happening in the world. So you are prepared for tomorrow if the situation arises.
Welcome back to another episode of Wise and Shine. I'm your host, Dawn, as she budget babe, and I have Reggie here with me today because Alex is busy fulfilling
kids,
father duties.
Fathering, yeah. So very happy to be together with one of my favorite co-hosts.
One of, not
the favorite
co-host.
co-host. Everybody also must say the favorite co-host. But yes, this is Reggie. If you are new to the channel, like, share, subscribe. Welcome back.
And today's episode is on manage who?
Yeah, manage who?
Me?
Manage who? It's our ask and learn session essentially, right?
Exactly.
Ask and you shall be heard.
You guys had given some feedback on previous episodes that you enjoyed
It's
this
quite
format.
popular.
So yeah, please send in more questions.
We love
try
it.
to take, right now, we're literally taking 100% of the questions.
Yeah, we have
but
more.
please feel free to send in more. We'll try to take as many as we can. Although, of course, if it gets to a point where it's too much, then we have to filter a little bit. But at this moment, because this segment is new, send in your questions and you have a very high chance of us actually having it answered with our panel of co-hosts and expert speakers and folks that we invite on the show to give you their take from, in the real world. Yeah. So joining us on today's episode, before we dive into the questions, are two lovely ladies. I'll leave them to introduce themselves. Kirsty, you want to go first?
Hi, thanks so much for having me. I'm Kirsty Poltock and I'm the country manager for Robert Walters here in Singapore. So Robert Walters, we're one of the largest international recruitment firms. We've been in Singapore for 27 years. So we help people find either permanent employment or contract employments. We do both perm and temp options for people.
Okay, interesting. Is it getting popular where people do fractional or is that thing? Are you guys trying to front that part also?
I think
flexible work arrangement, right? That's like
or it was called the gig economy, and now it's fractional work, and some people call it contracting. But whatever it is, project-based solutions or short-term hiring, that's definitely very prevalent in Singapore right now, especially considering the economic backdrop, which I'm sure we'll talk about later.
Great, Kirsty, and
Hi, I'm Parul. I'm the Global Head of Business Partnering with the Economist Group. And given the change of work and the future of work, I'm diving into my own space of neuroscience, AI, and future of work. And I'm calling that space Rewired by Parul.
Tell us more, why? Because a lot of people, when they think of restructuring, they will think okay, the middle people are going to get cut. Maybe a whole department is going to shift, right? There's that whole thing, that's kind of how people think about. But you're really senior already, right? Like you're really very senior in the economists and you'll be like, no, I got to prepare myself, I got to do this site thing. It's like, what's going on when you're thinking about it?
So when I think about it, there are two perspectives. One, I want to utilize my 20 years experience, and especially what I've seen when I started my career to where we are today with the change of everything is technology-based. Companies are restructuring. All the organizations are thinking about tomorrow, AI. But I feel as an HR leader, as an HR professional, that I've seen this phase and I've seen what we need as HR leaders to equip the organizations to understand the people perspective and how we can prepare for tomorrow, not only for restructuring, but also the talent is the same. People are the same, right? You need to upskill them. You need to train them, but it doesn't happen automatically. It starts from top up. And that's where I'm trying to understand what the what the generation of tomorrow needs and how the leaders are prepared to manage them. But at the same time, as you said, why I'm moving into that space is because I don't know what happens tomorrow, right? And after 20 years, I myself feel that I need to upskill myself. I need to be relevant tomorrow, right? Why will the organizations think of leaders of today as? And I want to be one of them, which talks about how the future can be changed.
So even for younger audiences who are not so sure about their own career path, you're saying that there's no reassurance even if you climb after 20 years to a very senior position, that these thoughts still linger.
They do linger. And to be honest, nobody is indisposable. If I don't change, if I don't adapt, if I don't look what's tomorrow, I might not be relevant in tomorrow's world. So I need to be relevant. And I've been doing the same job for 20 years. Maybe I want to shift. Maybe I want to do something else. So I think it's for every human being, whether they are starting the journey now, 20 years, 30 years. So
I just wanted to ask, right, is it just me or do you all agree and feel that the rate of change and the adaptation is like more and more?
Of course, I think so.
Right.
I
It's
think so.
accelerating.
Yeah.
And especially the last few years, you've got to go fast or you're going to be left behind.
Before we go to your questions, okay, hang in there, okay?
We have our questions
we have
coming.
our
first
questions.
priority.
You can host with us, okay? But yes, do you think like from an industry standpoint, you're seeing jobs go through the cycle much faster? So my thinking, I don't know what's the exact term, but my thinking is, okay, you use X amount of time to learn a skill, right? Or a set of skills, and then you monetize it in the job market, right? But this timeline where you can monetize feels like it's getting shorter and shorter and shorter. Is that a fair
Because
statement?
it's evolving, right? So the skill you learning and then implementing, it's evolving. So the next step has to go from there. So it's a very short time period that you can utilize that skill. So you need to be working on your future skills to stay relevant. And I think that's like the message for the market today. Be agile, stay relevant.
Very tiring.
Yeah.
a little bit exhausting, to be honest.
Very
I
exhausting.
think when you're young, you have a lot of energy, you
Yeah.
can learn all these things,
I
but you get to
know.
different stages of your life where you have to also manage your family and take care of other things. It gets very hard if your job doesn't already cater for that learning to take place, to actually carve out extra time to go and learn and pick up all these things.
That's why we welcome you to manage who, right? Right into us.
Ready?
Very
Share your
hard
questions.
turn, huh? But yes.
we will give like real tips. If we don't have them, we'll ask the
Yes, we'll
experts
ask.
for them.
So yes, you want to bring us off?
Yes.
First
Shall
question.
we start first with the ones that we receive on the forms, right?
Yes,
So for
yes.
those of you who are not familiar, we actually do have a form that we've been sharing on our social media, and that is where you can click and submit your question. You can
Burning
put
questions.
in any random name that you want.
Yes,
Okay, but give as much detail and color as you possibly can, because we will actually call out the name or the handle when we address this question, so you know that we
It's
have actually
you.
selected. Yes, it's
Yes.
you. Your question has been selected on Manage Who. So the first one calls himself or herself over preparer, and it's a manager in audit who is 30 years old. The
Okay, like you
question is-
survived already. Manager and audit at 30 years old, you have survived.
You're thriving.
Yeah, you're doing fine.
but not fine enough yet, because still have questions.
Question.
And the question is, I'm anticipating and preventing my own layoff while pursuing higher pay. How do I anticipate if a layoff is coming, and how do I prevent a layoff from happening? Well, I say first, you can't prevent a layoff from happening. That's not up to you.
Wow, I would really love if we had a crystal ball and could control that and prevent the layoff from happening.
I mean, that's why he or she is called the over preparer.
Yeah.
Right?
A little bit of control.
Yeah.
They need to keep the
I mean,
control.
Great, right? You're in audit. You got to
Yeah.
control.
Exactly.
Yeah, but yeah, question.
I mean, layoffs are not personal. You need to remember that it's a business decision, and it's based on potentially structure of the business, economic factors, maybe something around cost. So I think you can't obviously stop a layoff, but you can anticipate if you're seeing maybe internally that roles aren't being replaced when people are moving out. Maybe there's some sort of offshoring of certain roles. You can maybe if there's some investigation in terms of the productivity of different departments, you can start to maybe build a picture that there could be some layoffs happening. And at that moment, I think the most important thing to do over preparer is not to panic, okay? Not to panic. There's always an option. And of course, you have been building your skill set, but if you're thinking that might happen, you want to look at what skills you can use as you go out into the market. And if you haven't got skills that you want to utilize for your next role, how do you build those? Can you take courses? Can you get exposure? Can you have rotations internally in that period? I think that's what you can do to prepare yourself and also to maintain a positive mindset. If the worst happens, ultimately, it's really challenging. I mean, personally, it's happened within my family in the last few years, and it's tough because it takes a knock on your confidence. But you need to remember all the skills that you've got, what you can bring, your passions and your strengths to go to market.
To add to what Kirsty said, I mean, it's spot on. It's not personal. I mean, it's a business decision, but the science, and I'll be honest, the science you can look out for is the company talking about the business strategy changing? If the companies are talking about changing in teams, talking about looking at new ways of working, those are some words you can actually catch that, look, there's something coming. So be prepared. But yes, on the other side, you can never be prepared for a situation like this because it has a personal impact. But then the world is changing, and I think each one of us should be prepared what tomorrow is for us, and it is different for everyone. So I think few things, I mean, as an HR professional, I can focus, I mean, I would like people to focus on is thinking about more than what you're doing right now. Think about not your current role, but what else can you do? You can increase your visibility in the organization. Try to be more visible in terms of different type of work, not extra work, but different work that you can showcase your adaptability, your flexibility. And then, I mean, it's not sure that will guarantee your job, but at least you are making an effort. But at the same time, if you start getting those hints, make your network, do networking, go out, meet people, and see what else is happening in the world. So you are prepared for tomorrow if the situation arises. I remember once when I was studying in London Business School, one of my professors said, make it your goal to meet one person for coffee every week, even if that's not your comfort. But go out and meet, because you don't know what you learn from that individual and where will that individual meet you. So I've been following that for last so many years.
And
so
you
I
believe
guess,
it works?
Yes, it definitely works. It definitely works.
I want to ask a question. So in my younger days, when I was going through my career, right?
Still young lah.
Whenever...
I was going to say.
You're fine. No, yes.
So one I don't know if it's a misconception, so I'd love for you guys to correct me if it's so. But one idea that I had was that if I anticipate that I'm going to get cut or my role is going to get cut and I could spot certain red flags, I would hand in my resignation letter first, because I always just had the impression that it's better for me to say bye to the company rather than the company saying bye to me. Is that valid?
Yes. I have faced that myself in one of the organizations where I felt that things are not working fine. And later I realized, did I step out? Like, I shouldn't have resigned. I should have waited this out. But, when you step out of your comfort zone, when you plan to take that action, it is always for your good. I'm sure it would have worked out for you when you moved out, you hand in your resignation, right? Mm-hmm. You might have thought about, and you would have got something better because you were not in the desperate situation where you will take anything. You were in that situation where you could get and bargain in a better role. So I think it works out. But yes, I mean, you need to be prepared. That's all I'll say. And as I said, you need to upskill. The world is changing, whether we accept it or not. Things are changing. Everybody is going in a different perspective. So it's better to be prepared. If not going out, even in the same job, you are being productive, right? You are giving something to the organization, which organizations would want individuals who are giving them what they want. Mm-hmm. So if it is out of your comfort zone, it's not your role. Maybe you're an HR person, but you have a tech knowledge. You want to move into that side, or a product knowledge. HR people can be good product managers, right? Because they understand the employee experience, so they can provide that. So everybody needs to step out of their comfort zone. So whether it's in a form of resignation or whether it's a form of taking a role which is difficult for you, but you are thriving that. So I think it's time where everybody needs to start looking at what they've done and what they want to do.
And I think statistically, it's smarter to be the first leaver.
First leave, right?
There's a very good chance that your company is not the only one restructuring, right? So if you are earlier in the job market, when the ship hasn't sank, right, then you can faster hop onto the next thing, because at some point, many other people are equally able or even more able people will all flood into the work market, and
it's harder
then
to
you will have too
stand
much
out
supply
then.
and no place to put them to.
We had that situation so many times last year where sort of larger organizations had big teams that were going through retrenchment, unfortunately. But obviously they had the opportunity to stay on till a certain point. And some of the discussions we had with candidates and job seekers was more around, do you really want to wait till the very last minute when you're all there, like 20, 30 of you doing the same job out in the market? It's so difficult to differentiate yourself. And that's not saying as soon as you hear you're being retrenched or about to be retrenched, you need to go. But I think, like Parul said, you have to be proactive. You have to push yourself out of your comfort zone. You have to think about how you're going to take control of the narrative rather than just sitting there and put your head in the sand and hope for the best.
Yeah, fair. But I will say over-preparer is really over-preparing, right? because he or she wants to prevent their own layoff while pursuing higher pay. Like, come on. You know? It's like if you're
So
at
the
the
first
prevention...
sign would be that if the negotiation for the higher pay is not successful, that could be a sign that the company is not in a position and might have to lay off
could be a sign. But it's kind of like two ends of the game, right? On one end, you're trying not to be fired. On the other end, it's like, I'm doing very well. I'm going to get my pay increase. I'm going to get promoted. Like, relax.
And the reality of this market is most employers are not giving significant pay increases this year, right?
Yeah.
They're doing minimal, right? So going and asking for a significant increase, unless your responsibility has massively increased, you're showing a different, more valued skill set, I think I would be cautious about that.
Yeah, but 30-year-old manager in audit is a rare breed. So it's survivor already.
Yes,
right?
I agree.
I wish you well, but relax, okay?
Okay,
Yes.
so that one is over-prepared. But I
Okay.
think the next one is not really over-prepared. You want to take that?
Okay, I'll take Jojo. Jojo from Biotech. I love your names, Jojo from Biotech. So the question goes, restructuring is very difficult to go through. My work responsibilities have been changed 3 times. How do we deal with the difficulties in changing bosses, changing teams, or work responsibility after restructuring? There is no clarity and less understanding of good job prospects in the company. Is there a way to excel after restructuring or layoff? No.
I love that question.
It's not over-prepared. It's an overthinker.
Oh my God.
I
No.
can feel the emotion in Jojo's question,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
You can feel
I
like
can
emotion
feel it,
and
yes,
a little
yes.
bit of like,
And
maybe
plus my
panic.
voice acting, right? A little bit of that.
Yeah. Well, I loved it.
Thank
We were there.
you.
I'm just
Yeah.
imagining Jojo. I think at the end of the day, first of all, you're still in the business, right? The restructuring has happened and you're still there. So that obviously is a feather in your cap that you are valued and that the organization thinks you can take on these additional duties. But no doubt it's very unsettling. Obviously having different bosses come in and out, different ways of working, different structure. But let's be frank, this is the way the world is moving towards. We have to be agile. We have to be adaptable. So in this scenario, you have to show that you can go with the flow and take on these additional responsibilities and also navigate them in a professional manner. Now, of course, if there's not clarity, if you need more support or if you need more direction, you can manage upwards and have those conversations with whoever's your new boss. But you need to sort of start being proactively like working towards those changes rather than sort of panicking about, maybe how to excel. The fact that you're there means that you're still valued, which is great. Now we need to show that we're adding the value.
No, I agree. I think that's the first thing, that if you're there, you're there, right? You've already proven your
You
worth.
survived,
so yes,
Jojo.
you've survived. But yes, I completely understand from where Jojo is coming, because this is happening and organizations are restructuring one after the other, probably every year, and it is becoming difficult for the teams. But I think one thing to keep in mind is be resilient, because if it is difficult for you, it is also difficult for the company. If they are going through a certain kind of period, that means they are also struggling to figure out what's next. So I think if you are already a part of that means the organization trusts you, and you need to come out and bring ideas to support that movement. Because company is what? It's a mix of people, right? It's us who makes the company. So if the leadership is not able to understand what is the next move, I think all the team members have that opportunity to show the extra part, what they can deliver, and how they can be that catalyst to that change. So instead of struggling and figuring out and blaming and not able to see what is next, try to bring the solutions on the table. Maybe your solution can work. Maybe you can be the one who's bringing the change and helping that change. So as she said, like, you need to be adaptable. You need to show that you are flexible. If you try to add problems to what the company is already going through, you got Honestly, you're next on the list.
Yeah, yeah.
I should also do that.
True. Yeah, true. I was gonna say that too, because like when the fact that this person, this Jojo survived already is a testament to her skills. And because she said there is no clarity and less understanding of good prospects in the company, there's an opportunity for her to write that document, right? Like they're in a mess right now. They're dealing with, people who have been let go and whatever they need to pay out and reorganizing everything. You can actually rewrite that JD and you can make your boss life easier by doing that, or even a HR and bringing that to them. Plus, the fact that if Jojo were to prepare this in advance, it'll make it easier for he or her to substantiate and ask for a pay raise later on. Because they can then really show that when I was hired, you got me in at this level and this pay grade for this amount of work. And as the company went through, I was very supportive. I actually added on and took on this extra without anything more. Now, I think the company has gone through, it's been 1 year of your cost efficiencies. We're in a good position now. I would like to discuss what I have added to the company during this transition and to see how we can renegotiate a salary that is more reflective of what my role has grown and matured towards. And if Jojo has actually done a good job during this period and is very clear of that additional JD duties, she's going to win that
And I'll tell
negotiation.
you honestly, like in my previous role, I was the global head of talent management. We used to assess the talent globally. And I always saw on the 9-box grid on the right-hand side, top performers in the organizations were the people who were showing their interest, who were coming forward with ideas like this, that I know because already the manager themselves are struggling to figure out a solution. So if you go, you become their strong point. And every organization is looking for people who are trying to come forward and give solutions. So, yeah.
Yeah, it's true. It's true.
Yes, so Jojo, you have your
Jojo,
answer.
yes. Jojo, fighting, right? Yeah. But maybe before you move on, just want to add one last thing. I think the whole idea that, things are in a mess, fundamentally means you can kind of decide what is considered right? Right? And that's a great place to be when you can decide what is correct, right? Because management is as messy as you, don't worry. Hey, I hope you're enjoying Wise and Shine so far. I'm your host Reggie, aka your Chief Financial Coconut, and for us to continue to do this show so that you become a tad bit wiser every week, you gotta like, share, subscribe, help us beat the algorithm. But even more importantly, if you can, comment in the comment section below. Let us know your thoughts and also some questions that you would love us to answer. Yep, now back to the show.
All right, next one we have from Reina, who is a marketing manager.
Wait, before you continue, if you don't mind, next time, right, you can put names that is a bit more gender specific.
So, Reina, due to the nature of a high efficiency work culture, the most challenging part of my career is ensuring that my team avoids burnout and stays ahead of AI trends. It sounds like our conversation earlier on.
Yeah.
What are the first 3 steps to take to recover from a layoff?
Oh, good question. She's a marketing manager, 34.
I think first thing is, and we're coming back to the same point, don't take it personally. It's not personal. I know it's difficult and I know it's easier said than done because it impacts individual financially, personally, professionally. But the first thing to recover from layoff is to make your mindset about yourself and your confidence and the work you've done over a period of time, not about that moment. Second, as I said, talk to people. It really helps. Have your network, have a group of people where you can confide, you can share what's going on with you. And one thing that I have personally learned is always have a mentor, whether it's your friend or it's your senior or it's your ex-boss. They always give a perspective that we don't understand in those difficult times. Anybody who's going through that situation will not get it. So they need that perspective coming out. So have a community for your own personal self, not somebody about family or friends, but it's a community where you are safe and you can talk about what you're going through. It not only helps after layoff, but before layoff. We were just talking about the situation of an individual who's anxious and not able to cope with the restructuring. When companies lay off people and you see your colleagues getting out of the job in one day, that impacts you personally. And then you don't know, your future looks anxious even if you are working and you are in the organization. So you need to have a mentor or a senior or a friend whom you can actually confide in terms of work and they can give you a perspective. So I think from my perspective, these 2 things really, really matter if you are.
Okay. But what about from a manager's standpoint, right? Managing the team right?
The
So
survival
that
team.
the survival team, and then you're like their manager. Now you know everyone is feeling anxious. Everyone is, I mean, as you can tell, right? So everyone is feeling like lost. What's going on? My role now is not my role anymore. You know, my teammates are gone. So, but you are the manager, right? You have a team under
It's
you.
tough for managers, to be
Yeah,
honest,
I'm
because
sure. I'm
ultimately
sure.
that the current team who they have and who they are actually trusting to perform, they're not able to deliver because of this situation. And as a manager, and that's where I was talking about the neuroscience and AI, you really need to think from a perspective of your team member, and you need to communicate. What I have seen in organizations when situations like this arise, when restructuring, the communication gap is the biggest problem which we are not able to overcome. Managers need to start communicating openly that, look, this is what is coming. This will impact few of your team members. You need to let them know immediately that two of your team members have left. That gives them that confidence that we know what's happening. Otherwise, if you don't share, and it's difficult for manager also to communicate a problem like this, that builds a gap that makes people more anxious. So I think as a leader, as a manager, you need to be over communicative, especially when the situations like this are arising. You need to let people know. And then the ones who are being laid off, you really need to treat them with respect, because the ones who are existing will see what's happening with their colleagues.
For
They
sure.
are not just left stranded.
For sure.
Yeah.
And the circle is only that small.
And circle is
Everyone
actually, the
knows
circle is
everyone.
that small. So you
Yeah.
really need to treat people who are leaving much better than the ones, because they are going to see that if it's tomorrow my turn, that's how I'm going to be treated. That makes people more anxious. So I think that relationship, that bonding needs to be really very very strong between managers and the teams. And then managers, other than looking at their own teams, they should look back at their leaders. They should ask questions. They should ask, what is it is preparing before the storm arrives. Okay, so you need to talk to your leaders and say how it's going to impact my team. Start giving the opportunities to people if there is an option somewhere else. That makes a relationship more like a mentor and a team, rather than, oh, this is my manager, I know he's going to come back to me, that tomorrow I'm not needed. So that kind of creates a rift. So I think as a manager, you need to be more human when you know that the situation is going to be like
Agree. And I think even for managers, right? Because if they're not able to recognize these emotional shifts in their remaining team, there's a very real chance that they could lose more of their team members.
Then they are quite weird also.
Yeah, and no, but that would be
As a
terrible for the
manager,
manager, you
for
know, because
sure,
imagine
for
if
sure.
like you have 4 people, the company access to thinking that the remaining 2 will cover the other 2, but you don't communicate, you don't bond. The other 2 are worried that actually I might be the next, and they leave prematurely. The manager's gonna have to pick up a lot of pieces.
I think something
For
about
sure.
this that's really important is for as a leader, as a manager, to be vulnerable. And I think sometimes in these scenarios we kind of feel like we shouldn't be vulnerable, but actually the manager is probably also feeling emotional and you know a lot of tension or stress around this. But I agree with Parul, we have to actually over communicate and make sure that our people really understand what's happened, answer any questions as openly as we can. If we don't know the answer, we need to be transparent about that. And if we don't know the entire plan, we can map it out and then ask our team to be part of it. Just bringing everybody together towards a common goal and making sure that everybody understands that feeling a little bit uncertain doesn't mean that we have to leave, that there's a negative, but this is just the reality we're navigating is really important.
Yeah. It's like kind of like taking stock as a team, right? Like, okay, we come together, we know this is a situation, and be glad if restructuring was one cycle. It rarely comes alone, right? So there are a few cycles, you know, probably 2 or 3. But I think throughout that whole process as the manager, you want to unite your immediate team, right? You want to make them feel comfortable, make them know that, okay, this is what's happening, right? Like what they say, over communicate. But I think at the same time, it's also just taking stock of like, can we make some workload adjustments? Right, because you just can't be functioning at the same level, and because you're the manager, you're constantly reporting upwards, right? And the leadership they're not idiots, right? You tell them, it's like, okay, you're gonna cut 5 of my men, you know, then I can't do as much. I could probably manage with like 60-70%, which is already a lot more than what we were previously doing. And you need to know that, so that when you go up and talk to leadership, you have that understanding, so that your team knows, okay, this is what it is, where can we go, what can we squeeze, what can we cut, I think that part is very important, so your team feels comfort.
I think one thing that managers can do is start doing the workforce planning well in advance, so they know who they can upskill. Right now, what's happening is that because organizations are going into that mode of restructuring. Some are prepared, and some organizations are also not prepared. They're just being reactive to a situation where they have those capabilities within the organization, but because there is no scope of understanding how my team, what are the capabilities in my team, they're just taking the action because we need to reduce the headcount, let's lay off 2 people, rather than utilizing the capabilities that already exist. Maybe those 2 people can work in some other teams, maybe. So I think that's one thing that managers can do proactively, is to understand the capabilities and skill sets of their team members, and maybe have more, instead of working in silos, be more open to discussions, see where the utility is, because ultimately it's the organization. If you fire 2 people tomorrow, you might want to hire 1 more, but rather than hiring from outside, you have an inbuilt talent. Just upskill that individual, maybe prepare it by business shadowing, job rotations, give them opportunities, and you'll find the talent within the company. So that's one thing managers actually can work on
Yeah,
proactively.
fair. So I think people need to start realizing also that as things restructure, they're also hiring, right? Just for different roles, we're rotating.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I want to push this up. This came in from YouTube. I actually saw this comment because when I was watching this episode. So I'm
Really?
glad that our producer picked this. This is from Ashley8980. And the question is there any advice for a healthcare professional with a highly specialized bachelor's degree looking to transit into business development, product management, or marketing roles? What certifications do the employers value? I see so many certifications and courses available, but exactly which ones are valuable, which one should I go for? Please help me out. I'm burnt out from being overworked and very underpaid in healthcare.
Burn out, overwork, underpaid healthcare nurse.
Fair.
Probably. Yeah.
Okay, so what I would say is ultimately like a transition, so going into sales or business development role, obviously that's a great way to transition because you're in a front office facing role, you're bringing in revenue for the organization, so companies are willing to invest. But how do you demonstrate those skills? Obviously look at the skills you've already got in terms of engagement or potential for managing relationships, but put yourself on courses which drive sales behaviors. You can do sales course trainings. You can also look at how to commercialize your business development and sales acumen. So it's not just enough to build relationship skills so you can do business development. It's also about how do you identify commercial opportunities, because sales has evolved dramatically. I mean, I've been in recruitment 20 years, and when I first started, it was super transactional. And obviously, recruitment is a sort of sales-based role. And now it's very much about trying to understand the nuances of where that business is going and how you can add value. And that's the same across the board for any sales role. So the more active listening and questions that you can answer to get to the bottom of what the commercial goals for the company are, the better your solution will be. And that you can do through training as well in terms of commercializing the sales skills.
Is there a need for this person to go and take certifications and courses then?
I think that's the crux of the question.
I mean, I think there are a few courses, but the reality is that a lot of this is on-the-job training. So get exposure, do rotations. Can you get a contract position to demonstrate these skills?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think that's a very, because if we talk about certification, there's no one certification we can say, okay, you get this certified and you are being hired. That doesn't happen. It's on the job. And I think you need to, I mean, the other thing they can think about is getting into tech. Health tech is doing marvelous these days. So I think that's one opportunity. They can do some AI courses. They can understand how they can use their current skills by using AI or technology. I think that's one way of understanding. And it's about moving out of your comfort zone. Try doing something, maybe shadow some, no, it doesn't have to be your job. You can just sit and shadow some individual who's working on sales or technology and see what they're doing. And you have one thing I feel is people don't understand the strengths they have. Every individual has some or the other capability. That's why they are working, right? So they have a job because they have a talent. So how you can use your current skills and capabilities and try to figure out, you can use them in 10 different ways. You can be in sales, you can be in marketing, you can be front office. It's the plunge that people are scared to take. So that's one thing that...
No, and I think, just for me to add on this, right, I think a lot of people don't realize the amount of resumes that HR professionals go through. So sometimes you really got to help them to think, right? Yeah. So like, okay, maybe you are a nurse or maybe you are like a health technician in a hospital, healthcare professional, right? Doesn't mean you don't do any form of business development. Doesn't mean you don't do any form of project management. doesn't mean you don't do any form of marketing, right? So sometimes it's just translating that experience that you have, in written form, and then let the recruiter know that, hey, actually, all these things, I may not have direct experience, but I kind of know these things, right? Like I've done it, and that kind of helps them because you guys go through a lot, right?
Oh yeah, you've got to catch her attention pretty quickly.
Exactly. So that whole thing, and with Control F and all these AI filters and all those, right? I think you really gotta help the other side understand. Okay. So actually, this person is a viable candidate because he or she has done this, right? And I think that's the translation work that you gotta help. Although I do think the gap has been closing. People are slowly realizing that. But if you're still there, let's give that a shot.
I have two parts to say for this Ashley audience because it's from our YouTube, right?
Same lah.
First one is that your transition could be done in baby steps. So you don't have to take a big leap, right? Because I think that's what most people think about. Like, I want to leave my healthcare industry. I want to get into tech. But you're not the only person trying to do that. Everyone is trying to say, like, I'm a nurse, I've done some business development. So then if 10 people are saying the same thing, you're not going to stand out. But if you're the only one saying that at a certain point in time, you will stand out. So you also have to know like what is the marketplace like, right? But I think one way is to take those baby steps in the sense that you could go into transition role, which has that skill set and healthcare expertise. So my friend, for instance, was working in healthcare. It's one of the hospitals in the East. And she moved into an investment firm that analyzes healthcare. Very relevant,
important,
right? Yes,
analysis,
and you could be, for instance, a digital transformation analyst helping healthcare to transform their processes into more efficient stuff. Because not everyone's gonna try and say you should do this, but they don't really understand what it's like in healthcare. And when you can actually tell the employer, hey, I've been from healthcare, this is not going to work. The nurses are so overworked. They have no time to go for your 10-hour training. We need to break it down. 10 minutes or like just go there, show them 15 minutes on the spot. Okay, and when you can communicate and deliver that value, you are going to able to transit very easily. And there's so few people who can actually do this. Everyone will just think immediately, tech. Yeah. What about healthcare and tech? Or what about finance and tech? Finance and healthcare. When you blend that together and you start searching more creatively for certain roles or companies, I think that is rarer than just jumping straight for I want to go into tech, I'm going to go for Meta.
Yeah. I think that's a game changer. Yeah. As compared to saying, oh yeah, I organized family day and then I did business development.
Yeah.
Like
Everyone's doing that too.
to bring their kids to work. I was like, okay, thank you. The game keeps stacking. It gets complicated.
And the other thing about Ashley is I feel like, actually if we break it down further, right? Looking to transit into business development, product management or marketing roles. Actually, it's three very different things. I think Ashley needs to first figure out which one do you want. And then you go and find the roles and the skill set and the path towards there. Because if you want to do project management, healthcare, and tech and project management can be that digital transformation that we talk about. But if you want to do business development, then maybe you want to start selling like pharma-related products or medical devices and equipment, right? So there's a whole world of opportunity out there. I think you need to figure out what you want. But yeah, right.
Okay,
so healthcare professionals, you want to switch out?
Fighting.
This is.
Although we say we only got 7, but we don't even have enough time, right? So please.
Submit more questions.
Please submit more questions. Keep this segment running. I hope we are helpful. Okay, so this question is from Desmond, our Spotify commentator on the episode of Why You Need to Prepare for a Layoff Now. Okay, so the question goes, would like a comment from the podcaster or guest on their take of a certain bank where senior staff were made to reapply for the same position. I think it's HSBC. All right, is it HSBC? Everybody know what? Don't worry, right? It's in the news. HSBC made everybody do that, and I don't think they're the only one. I vaguely recall.
They're not the only one.
Right,
No.
exactly.
Well, a media firm starting with B also did that
BBC,
recently,
okay,
right?
BBC or something. If you make your people do it, you must be comfortable that other people will talk about it, right? Okay, so anyway, let me finish the comment. So essentially, there are all these firms making people reapply for their jobs. So Desmond wants to know, is it better or worse than traditional retrenchment? So I think there are a few ways we can take this
or worse
question.
perceived from the recruitment and the employer's
from
lens,
manager, from individuals, any hard take.
It's funny. I mean, if you have to reapply for your own role, it's like asking my own daughter, do you want to be my daughter? Do you want me to be your mother? Like, it's like proving yourself, right? Like, you have to prove yourself. So if you, well, we all have to prove ourselves every day. But then if it has come to that, long-term perspective, that's not the place for you. But yes, everybody has their commitments. Some has financial commitments, family commitments. So I think it's still better than being retrenched and being asked to leave at the same day. The organization is giving you the opportunity to prove yourself again. And if I were you, I would just go ahead, bring 10 more things what my people are doing, what other people are doing, and try to show that other than an HR professional, I can be a marketing guy for you. I can be the spokesperson of the organization. I can be the front page. So that way I'm showing that I'm adaptable, I'm flexible, and I can do more than what I was doing in the current role. So if you hire me, you're not hiring the old Parul, you're hiring the new Parul who has 10 different skill set. So you can look at it that way. But yes, I mean, it's easy for me to say for an individual. If organization is asking you to prove yourself, I'm not sure whether you really want to be.
It's a very interesting move. And I can imagine how this thing came about, like management meeting, and they were like, let's do this. And everybody probably thought that it was a smart move, and then it went out and then the whole media backlash, it's quite crazy.
Yeah, but from the organization perspective, if you see, they are giving an opportunity to all the individuals without taking that, what I was talking, that half of the organizations working today don't know what capabilities they have in the organization. So that was, they are taking a chance on each one of them to prove themselves again. So see, it's a changing world. And as I said, if people are not prepared, organizations are also not prepared. Everybody is being reactive to what's happening. They're taking knee-jerk reactions to situations. I mean, some organizations, like you named, are some premium organizations who have set processes. So they know things. But there are a lot of organizations who really don't know. They're just adapting. So they try to, if they think that this is the right approach, they'll just take it without considering what is the impact or a long-term impact on people and the culture and the brand it's going to have. So it's more like everybody is struggling, but the ones who will go through this storm will be the ones who are ready to change, who are ready to adapt, and who are ready to see what's next. But yes, I mean, there are consequences.
Yeah, I feel like when I saw this news from an employer branding perspective, I thought it was pretty bad. Like, the execution could have been done in so much better ways. Like, maybe make all the managers go and prove why you have, let's say you have 3 people in your team, prove to me, give me a written paper on each of the 3, explain what their contributions are, which one you think have not been performing. It could have been done in a more humane way.
Yeah, I'm also wondering if on the back end, we don't know how it was decided, right?
We will welcome you on the show.
Yeah, come on.
Let us know, let us know.
But I'm also wondering, was there an assumption that there would be a group of individuals that would like to take voluntary redundancy, and therefore then they could assess the rest of the people and see what skills were already in the organization? And like Parul rightly said, this is actually also a good opportunity if you're in one area to showcase all your other skills that you may not be able to showcase in your role, which is a positive. But I think it also brings up a lot of questions with regards to fair employment practices. And I think that's like a slippery slope. So I think it has to be handled with care.
Fair. But actually, as the conversation go on this, I was like, okay, that's an interesting point of view, because instead of having your manager be your spokesperson, now you get to be your own spokesperson again. Right?
Yeah, but the way it was done was a bit distasteful, right? So that's where it could have been managed a little better.
Exactly. So I think in conclusion, we welcome you. You let us know. Come on the show. We're happy to chat.
Maybe don't say like reapply, but use a different word.
What's a better word? Tell me. Contest.
I already gave a suggestion, which is to get your managers to do it. You could submit to your manager.
Okay.
Right? Your manager will be like, I don't know, I don't have the time for this shit, man. And then you'll be like, let me help you. Here's my document. Then whoever writes it better versus the other colleagues will stand out.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
But yeah, I think that it could have been executed in so many ways. But I love what both of you said, that when you take that whole personal, like, oh, why are you doing this? This is so unfair. This is so inhumane. But when you take those emotions out of it and you just see it as, again, another opportunity to showcase that you've actually been doing more than what you've been doing, and you can actually transit to different places. I love that. It reminds me of the Chinese quote.
And while we are talking about this big thing, it really impacts people. Like, I know you can be there are phases of grief, so everybody goes through that situation. As you said, you really need to be strong mentally. This is coming, this is how the world is now. I'm not saying that after 20 years, maybe after 30 years again, maybe after 40 years again, for any individual. I think the point is that you need to be mentally strong and be prepared. And there will be moments where you'll go 4 days, yes, I'm doing this is my next thing, and the 5th day you'll have that, oh my God, and you'll go back into that grieving phase, and that's okay. We are all humans, right? We go through these situations. One morning we are really motivated that, look, I need to do this, I'll find a new job, I'll upskill myself. Probably by the end of the day, the feeling sinks in that something happened to you. It's like a bad breakup, right? Yeah, you're still attached to that individual, but the person is not interested. Sorry, I'm giving too many personal anecdotes, but that's how it is, right?
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
how
yeah.
it is.
We don't need to go there.
Yeah, I know.
But yeah, appreciate the candor. I thought that was great, and I hope, Desmond, you're happy with our replies. But yes,
Yes, and the episode that Desmond commented on is
how to prepare for
titled-
layoffs. Why you need to prepare for layoffs?
Yes, which was one of
Very
a very
popular.
memorable
Very
episode for me as
popular.
well.
Yes,
so
yes.
to someone asked how to be over prepare when you're asking for the red flags, you might find your answers in some of that episode because
Wise and Shine 101. 101.
we had a
yes.
guest who was ex Google, and he was actually sharing about how he kind of saw that coming and he took some steps to prepare for it. And I think that's very important for anyone who is worried about layoffs in this current climate.
Awesome.
Well, that's us for today's episode of Wise and Shine Manage Who? Manage You, manage up,
A lot of people
down,
to manage,
everyone,
ah, yes,
basically
yes.
manage who. So thank you, Kirsty and Parul, for
Thank
joining us
you.
on this episode and sharing your expert insights and stories. We hope you guys have found this useful. Please remember to submit even more questions
Yes.
on the
I'll put in the
form or
more
on the comments.
Yeah, you be active in the comment section. We'll see it, And if you want to follow us for more specific updates and the Financial Coconut, just go to thefinancialcoconut.com and then drop your email there, right? So you stay updated on the events, what we're doing next, all that good stuff. Yeah. So with that, shall we call it a day? We'll
Yes,
see you
we'll
next
see you
week.
in the next
okay?
episode of Wise and
Take
Shine.
care. Bye-bye.
Bye.